War. It destroys so many lives, wreaks havoc on the innocent, and there's seemingly no end to it. But, of course, images of war conjure up many negative memories. But here are 3 encounters of military ghost stories. If you like what this series has to offer, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment below. Where to begin? I've shared one other story on here from my early childhood. I will attempt to share another, which may be lengthy, so I apologize ahead of time. Out of consideration of all parties dead or alive in specific location, names have been changed or called blank. Setting, somewhere in the southwestern in a military base exchange. And no, it's not Area 51. I had begun working in a hair salon on base part-time. A few days into my job, I noticed the frame in my handheld issued mirror was broken. I thought nothing of it at first, as there were 3 of us hairdressers, and sometimes would grab the nearest mirror on our way to wax a client, or a client in general would use one, so I assumed someone had accidentally broken it. I was issued another one, but within a week the same thing happened. My boss questioned me in a joking manner as to how I kept breaking the frames. I joked back that at least it wasn't the mirror, and so no bad luck times 14. But in all seriousness, I had not caused it. This prompted me to bring my own mirror because I had suspicion that this wasn't caused by any of the girls. I don't know why, I just had the thought that there was something other happening. While alone during close that night, I spoke to the air telling any presence responsible for the breaking of mirror frames that I acknowledged them and to please leave my mirror be. Thankfully, the frame stayed intact, and I have it to this day, and I later came to know how this act probably saved a lot of mirror loss grief. Fast forward a few months. When needing change for the salon, one of us had to go outside of the salon to what we called the cage in customer service. It was located past the food court into the main shopping area at the back of the store. Employees were instructed to round the side of the counter, where there was a makeshift window with no glass but a metal gate with an opening at the bottom for passing money, but the metal was all see-through. To the left of this were offices, and all one had to do was lean back a bit to see into one of them and speak to whomever was seated at the desk. On this particular day, I went to the cage for change. The gal behind the counter was as busy as a one-armed paper hanger, and as I didn't have a client at the time, I relaxed and waited my turn, enjoying the downtime. For no particular reason, I found myself passing the time by looking across from me at the framed awards hanging on the wall. Out of nowhere, I literally watched one of the awards come out from its place as if someone were standing there taking it down. It was suspended around a half a second, and then it came out from a wall about a foot in slow motion and dropped to the floor. I stood there in shock while my mind tried to process what I know for darn sure what my eyes had witnessed. At that moment, it was like I had panoramic vision and was hyper alert as I took the entire scene around this happening. Customers at the counter didn't seem to notice, and the gal working behind the counter didn't either, although she bent down near it to retrieve the slip of paper she dropped. She even walked around and passed the award lying on the floor. Surely they could hear the crash. They seemed oblivious. I don't know what came over me, but I leaned back and looked into the office of a gal I will call Trish, whom I barely knew but spoke to in passing. She looked at me, and the look on my face must have prompted something in her to give me her undivided attention. She said hello, and I reciprocated and was so shaken that I blurted out, Trish, I just watched and an award came off the wall in slow mode, and it didn't look natural. She smiled and told me that that was blank and blank, who had died in a house fire long before the base was built. I stood in her doorway as she unfolded the history on blank and blank and many other spirits residing there. Trish hosted a retirement party for one of the gals who worked there. She and several other office employees hired a psychic medium for said party. The psychic told him that blank and blank were mother and daughter who were trapped in a prairie hype fire in the 50s. They waited on the husband and father to come save them, but he was at work. I told her about the mirrors, and she just smiled and said they were letting you know that they are around. She also told me that the salon had been the old barracks back in the early 60s, and a soldier hung himself there. Also, in the loading dock area was such a menacing presence, the cart boy refused to put carts away or retrieve them. Trish told me another story about an office manager's encounter. When closing at night, the main lights had to be shut off at the back of the store. The manager shut down everything and made her way to the front of the store via emergency lighting that stayed on to lock up an exit. As she got to the exit, all the lights came back on. This spooked her, I was told, but she found the courage to go back through that store and shut them down again. From that day forward, I acknowledged all the spirits, asking them to please leave mirrors, lights, and even doors alone, because my boss, who was very religious, would not understand or believe, and I needed to keep my job. They respected me, for which I am thankful. Thanks for reading. I have other experiences I will share later that took place in the USA. A very enchanting place indeed. Blessed be. Something in the walls. When I was stationed at MacDill AFB, we lived in a base housing, and while I was temporary duty, my wife used to say she would hear clanging at night. She said it was as if something was trying to escape the walls. After we moved, I found out that an airman back in the 1950s had killed his daughter and hid her body in the attic. He lived in the same unit we did. I never told my wife this because she would surely freak out. I am actually writing this on behalf of my husband. He's still a little weirded out by his experience. I believe he has been a skeptic for a little while, whereas I had my own experience and was excited to hear he believes this is above and beyond normal. Here's a little background. He is in the United States military and stationed on a base that was once used as an African-American basic training camp back in 1945. It is still in use today as a schooling facility. All of the original buildings still stand. Most are condemned. The building where this took place was used as the brig in 1945, or as we know it as the jail. It is now used as a communications building. This story actually happened tonight. I just got off the phone with my husband, who was on duty, and he was taking a dinner break. His friend had leftovers in their office fridge, which is in the communications building I mentioned. He has keys to this building, which was locked, indicating that no one was working this late at night. My husband walked into the main hallway and was searching for his key to open his office when he heard each door down the hallway open and close for 5-second intervals between them. Each door is also locked each and every night when office hours are over. The last door that opened and closed on its own was right in front of my husband, who physically watched the door to do this. Mind you, all the doors were locked. He heard the knob pop, the lock open and close again. As this wave came towards him, he glanced through the glass of his office door and watched all of the computers turn onto their startup screen. All of the computers are shut down nightly. As the last door opened and closed, my husband instantaneously felt as if he was burning up, as if he was sitting in front of a furnace. Well, needless to say, my husband hightailed it out of there and does not want to go back. Unfortunately, he works there, so I hope he takes notice if the computers are still on tomorrow. A hostile light. This happened at Maelstrom AFB in Montana. Sometime in November, one coworker said he was checking a site. I can't remember which one, when he stopped at a single bright light moving around a farmer's field outside the restricted area. He started to move towards the site, and he assumed it was hunters with a spotlight. He got on the loudspeaker at his vehicle and gave a warning not to approach the site. Immediately, the light went to 0 to 60 directly at their vehicle. The vehicle abruptly turned off, the engine, radio, and headlights dying. He managed to scream into his handheld radio, "They are going to ram us!" as his Alpha departed the vehicle in a hurry. He threw himself flat across the seat for impact, which never happened because the light appeared to stop on a dime, just short of striking their vehicle. When he sat up, the light was retreating away from them and quickly moved away till it vanished over a hill. The vehicle suddenly came back to life, engine restarting on its own. How he didn't soil his shorts, I have no idea. The final story. The girl. If you want military ghost stories, just ask any of military police that's been around for a while. We tend to see really weird crap late at night, especially around places where there has been a lot of warfare and death. Like in Germany and old hospitals. Around the elementary school, there was always this particular area around the rear that would creep me the hell out when I would walk around doing security checks at night. It always seemed as though I was being watched. I was staring straight ahead and saw a figure appear at the far corner. It didn't come around the corner or anything. It just appeared. It was a young female, 9 to 12 years old, wearing a red jacket or cloak of an old style. I started forward and told the figure that it was late and she needed to go home, and she just vanished. I sprinted forward to the corner to see if she had run along the edge. The area was open and I got there less than 10 seconds after she disappeared and she was nowhere to be seen. I shined my surefire around the building and didn't locate her. I went back to my position, and when my backup got there, they cleared the building. They said they had heard noise in the gym like someone bouncing a basketball, but no one was inside, and they could hear the basketball themselves bouncing. It was really strange and really odd. So I asked one of the patrol officers, and they just laughed and smiled at me and said that it happens all the time, and they hear it a lot. Pretty creepy stuff. And even my team leader found a basketball in the gym too. Not sure what to think of that. War. It destroys.